to Integrated EDU,
where innovation meets education.
Here we explore fresh strategies,
creative learning pathways,
and powerful tools to boost student engagement and growth.
Let's elevate education,
one idea at a time. Hey educators, welcome to Integrated EDU. I'm Meg.
And I'm Kara.
We are very excited today. We get to bring a guest onto our podcast. If you're watching this, you can already see that he's here. It is the pirate himself, Dave Burgess.
Yay.
Welcome, Dave.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here and honored to be here.
Yes, thank you. We are very thrilled to get you on Integrated EDU. We have some pretty exciting topics to talk about today. Dave, what have you been up to? What's been new for you?
Hey, so I have been out and about doing a little speaking. I'm done for 2024 now, though, so no more speaking until 2025. And just always pulling more books together and getting more book projects out into the world. And so we've been trying to get our last couple books together that we're going to put out before the winter break season and all that. And so that's kind of what we've been doing.
Yeah, DBC books, definitely. If you haven't checked out any of those, though, they're hot commodities. That's awesome.
Rumor has it that my hosts here are getting close to finishing up on a book.
Yes, that you did hear that rumor correctly. We are in the final stages right now of the cover. So that will be coming out the beginning of 2025.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's such an exciting thing. Like when you start to see those covers, it becomes real, right? It's like, oh, wow, this is like a book kind of thing.
Yeah, especially.
And then when you actually,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, when you actually hold it in your hands, that's going to be a whole nother level too.
Yeah, especially when the picture looks like a book. They've made it 3D in the images. It's real life.
Yeah,
it's for real.
It's exciting. Yeah, we're like she said, just today we've been, responding to emails with like final touches and all that kind of stuff. So definitely looking forward to 2020.
Yeah.
There's like different levels of excitement. There's like finishing the project excitement, then there's the seeing the covers excitement, the holding it excitement, and then like when you see somebody else with it excitement, that's like, it's like there's all these different things that you still have coming that you're going to get to experience. So I'm excited for both of you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, speaking of books, I actually have someone's right here.
Oh, overrated.
Yes. So Teach Like a Pirate, Dave, you are kind of the person that we kind of went to for student engagement and, just what that looks like for you as far as purposeful instruction. Here at Integrated, we are all about purposeful instruction. We don't have time for fluff and filter, but how can we engage our students in a way that they can start understanding, the content that's being taught? So the episode today is kind of all about your side of that and some of the knowledge you can share.
Yeah. And so for sure, that's something that I got much more. You mentioned the word intentional. One of the things that switched for me is a lot of the things that I had been doing in my classroom, I feel like I came to fairly naturally with some of the things that were in my background. But then when I was asked to do a workshop, when someone said, hey, will you pull this together and teach other people this? It became this moment where like I had to go back to all the different things I had done and say, okay, like, why does this one work, but why didn't this work? And it forced me to become much more intentional about my teaching, much more intentional about my instruction. And that was like the real point where it flipped for me. When I pulled together my workshop for the first time, then I never looked at teaching it the same again, because it was like, oh, wait a second. It's one thing to just go in the classroom and do these things naturally, but how can I scale that and help other people do the same thing? And that's kind of where Teach Like a Pirate, the first workshop, came from. And eventually the book was me pulling together all these ideas and saying, okay, not good enough. That's what I do. But where did this idea come from, and why does it work, and why don't other things work? And so that's kind of the root of it all for me.
Yeah. And it's so true. What we do in our classrooms and then starting to go out and helping other educators. My favorite part is learning what they're doing that's working and how we can kind of just use each other to build that. So Teach Like a Pirate kind of came out a little while ago. Have you learned or things that you're like, this is the go-to, some of those strategies that we can kind of tell our educator friends to try out?
Yeah, well, I know that you two are about experiences, and that's one of the key lines in Teach Like a Pirate is don't just teach a lesson, create an experience. Lessons are easily forgotten, but experiences live forever. Like they may forget some of that prohibition lecture, but they'll never forget going to the speakeasy, right? And so it's about taking those lessons that we're teaching and saying like, okay, here's my content, not good enough. How do I make it come alive? How do I make it memorable? How do I create an experience around this? And so it's all about taking our lessons and our content and creating experiences. And I know that's something that you two believe in and are fantastic at. And so I think that we're very much aligned on a lot of that.
Yeah, yeah. I think the three of us in a room, we would we would definitely go to town on that. And I think about some of the content that we're teaching our young elementary educate students, and then even up into high school. Some of the content we're asking them to learn is very abstract thinking. And when you start thinking about how can you create that experience, you're talking about making it memorable. How can we do that for our students when that content is so hard to grasp? And I think that's where Kara and I try to elevate our instruction about making it an easier thing for them to understand through that experience.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, a very common phrase that sometimes makes teachers bristle is when a student says something like, why do I need to know this? Like, why is this important for me to know? And that makes teachers bristle. But if you think about it, why? Because isn't that what we want from all of our training and all our professional development and anything that we're sitting through, anything we're taking our precious time and we're sitting down and we're watching someone speaking to us, we want to know, why is this important to me? And so of course, students should be asking the same questions. And if we don't have an answer for that, then that's problematic. And so I think it really is trying to find ways to show kids the relevance of what it is that what we're teaching, what they're learning, and ways of connecting it to their lives. And if we can show them that this stuff is relevant and that it's connected to them in some way, and that there's some place further beyond this where this is going to be important to them, then I mean that's a big part of what we do. And so I always think it's funny when teachers get mad when kids ask that, because I hear teachers ask that all the time when they go to a staff meeting or when they go to some sort of collaboration that they're doing at their school site. They go and they complain at lunch about like, that didn't have any significance to me. Like, what was that? What did that have? Why did we have to be there? Why did we have to be a part of this meeting? And so like, why are we surprised when kids do that?
Yeah, exactly. I think we're all looking for it's purposeful, right? We
Yes.
don't have time to do all the fluff. Okay, so another thing about when we have to go and sit through some of these professional development, do you have any ideas that we could give our educators to take away to start using in 2025 that would help kind of put those experiences in their laps and in their classrooms?
Yeah, and so one of the ways that I look at this and one of the ways that I teach is I look at teaching as a triple Venn diagram. And so I have these three circles, and I think it's where these circles overlap that is really what becomes truly powerful. And so one of those circles is content, and we either have that circle or just entertain as a babysitters, right? Like we have to have this content circle. And so, but there's all sorts of like most teachers know their content. In fact, I said this confrontational thing in the book. I said, hey, by the way, I'm going to be talking to you about like all these different engagement strategies right now. I'm assuming that you know your content. Like if you don't know your content, set my book down and go do that. Go like learn your content. And then when you know your content, come back and pick up Teach Like a Pirate, right? And so like we have to have that circle. But there's books about that. There's professional development about that. There's conferences you can attend about that. There's online places you can go to learn your content. Any number of places you can do that. Then there's this second circle that interlocks with that. I call it techniques and methods. And we have this whole toolbox of techniques and methods that we've gotten from our colleagues, from our credential programs, professional development in our district, conferences, and all kinds of books have been written about the techniques and methods to teach, right? So those are two circles that we spend most of our time talking and collaborating about as educators. But I'm interested in this third circle, the one that very few people talk about. That third circle is presentation. So yes, you know your content. Yeah, hopefully, right? And yes, you have all these techniques and methods that you can draw on, this whole toolbox. But how are you going to present it in such a way that's relevant for them? How are you going to present it in such a way that's engaging? How are you going to present it in such a way that it draws them almost magically or magnetically into what you're doing in the classroom? That's the third circle of Teach Like a Pirate. And so that's what, not only is that something that I think gets overlooked when teachers connect and collaborate with each other, but also it's more fun. it's more interesting. It's more like when you actually have teachers connecting and collaborating around, hey, yeah, like we've taught this unit for years and it's just always boring to them. What can we do different this year to make it more exciting? Like that's fun to talk about. That's exciting to talk about. And it's something that teachers spend very little time talking about.
Mhm.
I think, yeah.
I was just gonna say, and thinking from the educator standpoint, it also brings more excitement to us. It kind of brings that
Yes.
creativity side back, and that's why I believe all three of us right now are so passionate about it, because we see the power behind that piece of, not just the content, not just the techniques and all this, but like the how to present it. Like, how are you going to do it differently instead of the same thing over and over again? And so I think it's exciting for us educators when you get involved in the planning and the implementation of those things, because, it brings that creative side out in you. And then you kind of, remember like, oh yeah, like this is why I got it. Like, this is
Yes.
what made it so fun in the first place. So.
Right.
And do you
Well,
think right now our educators, we're not always allowed to be as creative as I think we should be? I think that sometimes we get told to do it just like this day one, week two, and we lose that creative side, or we're not sure how to bring it out, or if it's okay to come out of our shell and do those different experiences in our classrooms. And do we have time to do that? Do you have any advice for teachers that are feeling in a funk with their creativity to bring in that presentation piece?
yeah, and so I think it's something that I hear teachers say that a lot, but I think the reality is that you have to go out and take it. Like you have to go out and embrace it. And I tell teachers all the time, you have to have the intestinal fortitude, the personal power, the strength of character to teach in the most powerful way that you can for your students, even in the possible, if not likely, face of some criticism from your peers, right? And so when you're doing something that's different, when you're doing something that stands out, when you're doing something that's outside the box from the teacher across the hall from you, or from the like, that's likely to draw some judgment, possibly criticism. And but if you're teaching the most powerful way that you can for your kids, and you believe in that, then you need to have that strength of character to do that. And I think sometimes teachers fear what admin is going to say about some of these outside the box kind of ideas and things like this. And I have not seen this in general. There are exceptions, of course, but in general, I think this is a fear that teachers have that is unwarranted. If you think about all the different things that a principal has on their plate that they're worried about, that they're stressed about in running a school, the idea that you, as a passionate teacher who has kids excited about being in your classroom, who has fewer discipline problems reaching the front office because kids are actually like to be in your room, that you're going to show up on their radar as a problem as opposed to a blessing, it doesn't ring true for me. And I've seen, I haven't seen that to be the case in most places. Administrators are absolutely pumped to see teachers who are putting in that little bit of extra time and energy, that little bit of creative, that creative touch, that innovation that makes their class something different and unique. And so I think a lot of these fears, although I understand where they come from, there are some outliers, but in general, I think teachers should feel more comfortable to take risks, to step outside of their comfort zone. All progress is found outside of your comfort zone. And so if you're never uncomfortable as an educator, then you're not growing. And so you have to be kind of willing to step outside of your comfort zone and do some new things.
Man, you have hit a ton of things. Kara and I are like
Yes.
bobbleheads over here, like absolutely. And you're absolutely right. If you are doing your best self every day for your kids and you're being authentically you in your instruction, you're right. Administrators are like, yes, keep going, because we're not sending kids to them. The students are growing. They're wanting to come back the next day. It's a whole integrated process. It just all comes together. Yes, and if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. Yes,
Absolutely.
I love that.
I push back on all these narratives that people come up with. Sometimes they'll say like, well, listen, what about if you make class so fun for kids, but they're going to go on to their college and it's not going to be like that. And they're going to have to know how to survive, or they're going to go to a career, their job, and their boss isn't going to care about whether their job is fun. They're going to want results and all that stuff. And oh, hold on, wait a second. So what you're saying is because possibly in the future, their job situation is going to be miserable, that in order to prepare them for that, we should make them miserable now. Like that just makes no sense at all, right?
No.
Like it doesn't make any sense. So all these narratives about like engagement strategies are too fluffy and all that. It's like I push back on all of it. Or they'll say like, but you know what? They still care about the test. Like I still have to like be concerned with my test scores because that's how I am judged. I say, okay, perfect. I care about test scores too.
Yeah.
I just happen to think that teaching in the most powerful way that you can and focusing on the powerful pedagogy happens to also be the best way to get to good test scores, because it doesn't matter what you say if nobody's listening. And so it always is going to come back to engagement. And so, you know, I don't engage in any of those kind of pushbacks or believe in them.
Yeah. And honestly, people keep saying things, the narrative of kids are changing, things are different, they're not like they used to be. Well, yeah, that's great. We kind of need to evolve with our students, especially in a very tech heavy world where our play based is kind of not there anymore. That's kind of our job, I think, in the classroom, is to give them those other pathways, those other options to learn content in a different way, a different experience, because they are changing and we need to kind of grow with that.
So I have this theory on this too. so,
Good. Yes.
Lots of people talk about, well, you know, kids, the technology, and they're always on their phones, and it's like TikTok, the TikTokification of the world, and their attention spans are so all this kind of stuff like that. Well, okay, so there's a couple of different things. So to me, that means that if I bring in like a more hands-on type of experience, then all of a sudden that's what has a much greater novelty factor, and it's going to be highly engaging. And I see like just somewhere teachers begin to think like, well, if it's you know, the kids are into technology, let's just get out the Chromebooks again and they'll do our little thing. And no, they don't want to be, that's not what they're interested in, right? But if I can do something, you know, like I used to do things like origami in my classroom. Like you don't think origami would work in a classroom right now? Of course it worked in the classroom last night, because when was the last time they did origami? When was the last time they actually created something with their hands and got to walk out with what they created? You know, that can be a powerful experience for them. And so the more the world goes high tech, the more you go high touch, actually, the more you stand out. It's like now, how much more does a handwritten note mean to someone now when you never see them anymore? It means a ton. You're like, oh my God, they took the time to actually write me a note. Like this is like it's touching, right? And so even in a high-tech world, you can be high touch, you can be hands-on, and you can be interactive, collaborative, and all those things. Yes, kids are changing, but at the heart of it, there's things that are just part of human nature. A lot of the ideas, I can teach like a pirate, it's about human nature. It's not about a certain age level. It's not about a certain ethnicity. It's about what is it that engages human beings?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so in our classrooms, we're in third grade teachers still, and we've been doing cultural studies around the world. And right now we're in Australia, and we did dot painting with Q-tips. And they loved it. In fact, our third graders sat and they painted for like 30 minutes, and they were so creative. And to watch the differentiation, how that works with those students, and that they're like, can we take these home? So you're exactly right. They want something that they create, and the collaboration that happens when you do different things like that, where it's music, movement, visual arts, something, when they're talking and collaborating and problem solving in a very natural way, I think is so much power.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's I 100% agree with that. And that also, I love the fact that you're incorporating the art, right? And so that's like a super big part of also what I'm talking about, is that having that cross-curricular approach to education and that blending and weaving of things like music and art and projects and all that kind of stuff together. And art and music, not just something for kids to do over when they're this part of the building over here or during this hour of the day, like it's okay, now it's art time or whatever, right? These are things that when you weave them through everything you do, it creates that richness of experience for kids and allows them to express that creativity and to process things in different ways. And now they don't just have the what they heard from the teacher. They don't have just what they also created something, which is going to make it much more, you know, they're going to get higher retention of it because they actually did something and created something themselves. And all those things blend together. Sometimes I use a steak analogy, and I swear I didn't plan this, but I actually have it, right?
There's a
I'm
steak.
like, oh. So anyway, I use the steak analogy where I talk about how, there's lots of things I talk about with the steak during my presentation, but one of them is that like it's not just, if you just serve raw steak, you're not going to have a very happy diner. You marinate it, you season it, you baste the other side, and then when you serve it, you have side dishes, beverages, and a dessert, right? And all those things come together to create the dining experience. Okay, and the same thing is true of a lesson. You can't just come in with your content. Content's not good enough. How have you seasoned it? How have you marinated it? What side dishes do you have? What beverages? What's the culminating activity that they're excited about, which could be the dessert, right? All those things, when you add them to a meal, make people enjoy the dining experience and want to dine with you again. And when those things are added to a lesson, it makes them enjoy the lesson and want to come back and learn with you again, right? And so that's one of the ways I talk to teachers about. They're like, hey, well, when I looked at your lesson, looked to me like you were serving raw steak, right? You had nothing but the content, right? And it might be great, but like you also didn't preheat the grill. Like I don't put my steak on a cold grill. I preheat my grill, because when you drop your steak on a cold grill, nothing happens. But when you drop it on a preheated grill, what happens? It sizzles. Like I want my content to sizzle when I drop it. That's why I always I build up mystery, curiosity, buzz, anticipation, get them excited about what are you saying today that makes them excited to come tomorrow, right? That's preheating the grill. What do they see when they walk in the room that immediately makes them go like, oh my God, oh, what do you think we're doing today? Like all those things are things that are preheating the grill. And so, and then the other part of the steak thing is that like, you have to turn on the propane. You have to bring a little heat to it. You have to bring a little energy. And that's the teacher. You have to bring that enthusiasm, that charisma, that intensity to it. And if you're not excited about what you're doing, don't expect kids to be, right? And so if you're not enthusiastic about Carlos Santana, so the most contagious thing in the world is enthusiasm, the songs become incidental. What people receive is your joy. And if you change that to teaching, you say the most contagious thing in the world is enthusiasm, the lessons become incidental. What kids receive is your joy. There's the sense that they feel that you have a joy of being there with them, and you're excited about this too. And that goes back to something, Kara, you said earlier about some of this stuff is for us too. Like it makes teaching more fun. It makes it more exciting to come to school. Like when I see, I'm not bashing teachers as a group, but when I see some teachers teach, I'm thinking like, I wouldn't want to come to school and do that every day. Like that's not like, I would not enjoy my line of work, my profession, if that's what I did every day. I want to have fun too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it goes back to what you were saying. If you're creative and you're showing joy and that authenticity, I mean, look at all the things you already have for your steak dinner. I mean, we are hot and ready to sizzle is what's happening. Yes, I love that. Absolutely. And
what are the odds that I have a steak within like reach of me at the moment?
I mean, that's great. Yeah, that's perfect. God, this is perfect. Dave, thank you so much for this. I think this is going to be a perfect time of year. You hit that December time and you're teaching, you're like, oh, I'm ready for a break, but to be rejuvenated and to start again in January, what are you going to do just a little bit different to bring that sizzle into your classroom, to make it more enjoyable for yourself as an educator, but also for your students so that we can start learning together and being creative together.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is, if you're feeling like you're in a rut, you're feeling stagnant, the only way through that is to change it up, do something different. And it doesn't have to be a big change. Start small, do little things and build upon them. Like you'll build that presentational toolbox of strategies that you can go back to, and not always using the same one, but like choosing a wide variety of strategies that are going to hit a wide variety of kids on different days. Not every kid learns the same way. And so the more variety that we're using in our instructional practices and our engagement strategies, the more likely we're going to hit a higher percentage of kids over the course of any particular, day, week, unit, whatever it might be, however you want to measure it.
Yeah, that's natural differentiation happening. You don't have to do a lot of extra work for it.
Right.
This is awesome. Dave, thank you so much for being on with us today. This is fantastic knowledge. How do people get a hold of you? How do we find you? All these great books you're talking about.
Yeah, so so you can find me at Burgess Dave on two places. One of them is on X, the old Twitter, right? But also now, many or educators are making the move to Blue Sky.
Blue
And I
Sky.
am Burgess Dave over there too. So if you search for Dave Burgess or Burgess Dave, you can find me on Blue Sky. It's kind of has the feel of what Twitter used to feel like. And so I encourage you all to go join Blue Sky if you haven't joined that yet. I am on Instagram at DBC_INC, TikTok at pirate.teacher. I need to get a little better at posting over there. I have a podcast called The Dave Burgess Show. And you can find me at either daveburgess.com or daveburgessconsulting.com and see all of our books too.
Yeah, yeah, you'll definitely want to head over there and check out some of those books. We have a bookshelf behind us full of DBC books. They always come out with really great, innovative, relevant content. So yes,
for educators, like easy to like digest and then implement. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have some strange ones too. Like we have some unusual ones. We have like we have one coming up. I'll tease. This is coming out in December.
Yes.
Okay, so somewhere around when this podcast comes out, imagine this. Like this is the kind of book that I love to do because we're the only ones that would do this book. It's called Teaching is a Tattoo, and it is a mashup of tattoo culture and education. And so it features tattoos from lots of educators from all over the place and why the significance of that tattoo. And then asks you as a teacher, like, what do you believe so much in education? Like a person who has a tattoo is something that they're saying, I want this permanently on my body. Like, what is it about education that you believe that strongly in? And has like a whole series of kind of thought-provoking questions that relate to both education and tattoo culture. And like that kind of mashup is something that I'm like super excited about because it's so unique.
That's
yes,
cool.
that
Very
sounds
cool.
awesome. I can't wait to get a copy of that one. That
That's
sounds
Yeah,
great.
Mike Johnston, who wrote You Are Poetry for us, is the one who wrote it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that teaser. It's exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Dave. Well, thank you so much for hopping on with us tonight. We really appreciate all of your knowledge, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me on the show.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with fellow educators.
Join the conversation in the comments and let us know how you're applying these strategies in your classroom.
Together, we can create meaningful learning experiences for all students.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.